new airstrikes on Iran overnight. Fox's Greg Pelcott in Tel Aviv.
The Isfahan nuclear facility was hit for the second time by Israel. The IAEA confirms real damage was done to the centrifuge construction facility. And another assassination by Israel. Saeed Izzadi, a Revolutionary Guard commander who played a key role in the deadly October 7 Hamas attack against Israel, was taken out. And the IDF claims to have shot down nearly all 40 Iranian drones headed towards Israel this morning. Tehran has had less success with these relatively slow-moving projectiles.
Israel has targeted 200 sites in Iran in its mission to eliminate Iran's nuclear capability. President Trump says he's still considering a U.S. military strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Here's Fox's Nate Foy.
President Donald Trump says that a decision is coming within the next 2 weeks. He is going to have another meeting with his national security team later today. Until then, he's enjoying his day here in New Jersey at his Bedminster Club. And after landing here yesterday, he made some headlines, including openly saying that his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was wrong when she said before Capitol Hill in March that Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapon. So Gabbard now blames false media narratives and posted in part on X, quote, America has intelligence that Iran is at the point that it can produce a nuclear weapon within weeks to months if they decide to finalize the assembly.
Gabbard says she agrees with the president that Iran must not develop a nuclear weapon. She had told Congress in March that Iran is not doing that. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
An anti-Israeli
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
No jail time for a Fort Wayne woman. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. A woman in Fort Wayne entering a plea deal and will avoid jail time. 43-year-old Joanna Eastis had hosted a house party last year during Halloween that resulted in a mass shooting and the death of a high school student. 10 people were also injured. Eastis received a suspended sentence of over 2 years and will be on probation for 2.5 years. She initially faced felony neglect and misdemeanor charges, but the misdemeanors were dropped as part of the plea agreement. 3 people are recovering from injuries in a shooting in downtown Indianapolis from early this morning. The incident occurred near West Michigan Street and Northwest Street by the canal. Officers there found the victim shot but awake and breathing. IMPD is now investigating. A judge is ruling that Union schools in Modoc, Indiana can remain open for the upcoming school year. The district was preparing to close due to a property tax overhaul bill passed by the Indiana legislature, but a judge says the district can issue new contracts that will keep the school open. Superintendent Galen Mast, speaking to Wish TV, said the community rallied for the school.
Pressure on coal causes diamonds, and so that's what's happened with our community. There's not been fractures. It has brought people together.
Mast calls it a fight for the future Rockets of Union and says that it's his school now. It could be multiple other schools in the near future. And one of the biggest days in Indiana sports history coming Sunday as the Pacers look to capture their first ever NBA title. Game 7 of the NBA Finals from Oklahoma City against the Thunder tips off at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. A watch party is also planned for Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
A heat advisory is in place for all central Indiana all the way through Tuesday. Tonight, mostly clear skies, humid, low temperatures in the mid-70s. Sunny, hot, and humid, high temperatures once again in the low to mid-90s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Home sales are good, just not great. So many homes have been properly marketed or just sitting on the market. Hiring the wrong sales agent will cost you time and money. Hire the expert who maximizes equity and sells fast. That's Mark Dietel. Maybe you want a fast, guaranteed home sale, but you don't want to give up hard-earned equity to do it. Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert trusted and recommended with the sale of your home. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed-upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Just pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. John in Greencastle said, I just bought a home in Greencastle, and shortly afterwards, my son moved to Fishers, which left me an hour away from family and 45 minutes from work. A big mistake, and I felt stuck since I had been in the home for less than a year. I asked the Mark Dietel team for help, and they delivered big. My home was sold in 14 days for the price I needed, and so I could move closer to family and work. Call the local Indianapolis agent, trusted and recommended, the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel, 317-755-4232. Get all the details or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark Dietel, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com.
Summer clean with Zero Res. Get 3 rooms cleaned starting at just $129 plus $75 off air duct cleaning. Call 317-388-5141, ZeroResIndy.com.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at GotYour6.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And good afternoon, and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Always thrilled you're with us. You can listen here live on the radio. You can listen at WIBC.com. You can check the YouTube feed and see video and partake in the video chat feature that they have there on YouTube, which is usually pretty lively. But I'm thrilled you're here. It's a big weekend, and perhaps big early half of next week. If it's if suppressors and short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns are things that that you're interested in or you would like to purchase in the future, and potentially even if you already own them. Why? Because the provisions of the great big beautiful bill, as President Trump likes to call it, that gun owners, and in particular those of us who appreciate NFA items, those items regulated by the National Firearms Act of 1934, the great big beautiful bill currently drafted, and I've reported on this before, could take a great big chunk out of the firearms that are currently regulated by the NFA. And why is that a big deal? Currently, to own a suppressor, for instance, you have to register that. But before that, you even have to apply for permission to transfer it from the seller, usually a gun store, to you. And then you have to apply for permission to transfer it and then register it, and you pay a $200 tax. And look, I've done that several times. I am a big fan of suppressors. You shoot with suppressors. Every time you do it, you want to do it that much more. I have them on pistols. Shooting a .22 suppressed pistol with subsonics, it is almost movie quiet. What's movie quiet? Well, Hollywood would have us believe that suppressors take a gunshot all the way down to next to nothing. It sounds like, and that's not, of course, the truth for the vast majority of firearms, but .22 pistol is pretty darn quiet. .22 rifle, subsonics, pretty darn quiet. Why does subsonic make a difference? A little footnote. Well, part of the sound you get when you fire any firearm, the main sound is by the release of high-pressure gases from the muzzle of the gun. It's what makes the loudest sound that we typically associate with a gunshot. And what's a suppressor do? It just acts literally as a muffler. It's the same technology, as I've talked about before, developed by Hiram Percy Maxim. And he produced his firearm muffler, as he called it, and his brand name was the silencer. But it's a series of an expansion chamber and a series of baffles, and the high-pressure gases go through the expansion chamber, minimizing the pressure, goes through the baffles, which minimizes both pressure and temperature. And by the time those gases are released into the ambient atmosphere, the sound associated with the release of those gases goes way, way down. Now, not nearly as much as Hollywood would have you believe. And for a typical rifle, for instance, a 5.56, 223, depends on load and barrel length and a number of other factors, can take a 160 decibel gunshot and take it down to about 130. But once you start using them, you get rapidly addicted, as I absolutely am. I own several of them because, especially outdoors, for a lot of firearms, not all, for a lot of firearms, you can take them to being a hearing safe level. And if you hunt, you can quickly become a big fan of suppressors. Why? Because you potentially, depending on a number of factors, caliber, barrel length, and others, you could be hearing safe, not have to wear hearing protection when out in the field, in the woods, wherever you happen to be while you're hunting, whatever it is you're hunting. You may prefer to hear what's going on around you. You may prefer to not convey the sound of your gunshot over to where other people are trying to hunt, especially if you're on public land, or even if you're on private land where some other private land may be somewhat close. So it's easy to get addicted to suppressors. Short-barreled rifles. I tend to put short-barreled rifles and suppressors together, literally and logically, because one of the reasons that it's nice to have a short-barreled rifle, to shorten the barrel of a rifle, the NFA says if it's less than 16 inches, it has to be registered as a short-barreled rifle. Well, if you're going to put a suppressor on the end of a 16-inch barreled gun, say on your AR-15, you got a 16-inch barrel, you add a suppressor, typical suppressor, somewhere around 6 to 8 to 9 inches. You're adding another, say, by average 8 inches onto a 16-inch barrel, you got a pretty cumbersome firearm. Take that and try to move in and out of a vehicle. Take that and try to go through doorways, up and down stairwells. Just to swing it around can be a little bit cumbersome. It's certainly doable. A lot of people do it. But without sacrificing too much performance, and for instance, some calibers are specifically designed for short-barreled rifles and suppressors, like 300 Blackout. Take a 300 Blackout rifle, which is designed for short-barreled suppressed firearms, reduce that down to, say, 12 inches or so, one that I currently own, put a suppressor on it. Now you've got a very manageable, easily manipulated firearm that's also suppressed. And 300 Blackout, by the way, shooting subsonic, also crazy quiet, much quieter than a typical rifle. So to be able to have a short-barreled rifle and put a suppressor on it, the two things tend to go together. I own a short-barreled shotgun, which is also looking at having the regulation over short-barreled shotguns affected by what's in the Senate right now in the great big beautiful bill. Why a short-barreled shotgun? Well, again, take a self-defense shotgun course, or what some places call a tactical shotgun course. Get in and out of a vehicle with your shotgun. Go through doorways with your shotgun. Go around corners. Go down narrow hallways. And you will rapidly become a fan of a shorter-barreled shotgun. NFA says if a shotgun has a barrel less than 18 inches, then it has to be registered under the NFA. I built, as soon as Indiana legalized short-barreled shotguns, I mean, the NFA's been around at the federal level since 1934. Indiana said you couldn't own a shotgun with a barrel less than 18 inches right up until, I want to say, 2015. I could be wrong on that. But Indiana repealed its criminalization of short-barreled shotguns, which meant if you registered them under the NFA, you could own a short-barreled shotgun. I sent my electronic Form 1 to make a short-barreled shotgun in at 12:01 on July 1st when the decriminalization of short-barreled shotguns went into effect. Why? Because I wanted to be the first kid on my block that had legally in Indiana a short-barreled shotgun. And I have taken multiple self-defense shotgun courses, tactical shotgun courses. I've taught shotgun for 20-some years. And you will become a fan of a short-barreled shotgun. Now, are they loud as hell? Yes. But by the way, it is a myth that you take some length off the barrel of your shotgun and you suddenly spray shot in every direction. You create this cone the size the side of a barn, and it is, quote unquote, I see this on the internet all the time, you can't miss with a short-barreled shotgun. Hogwash. It's not the way that works. Depending on whether you have a choke on it, the configuration of your barrel, it can certainly affect the spread of your shot, but it's still something you got to aim, and at room-sized distances, you're still going to have a fairly tight pattern. I go into all of that because it's all relevant to what I think are very, very popular firearms. They're popular to me. I own them all. I had to go through the whole, registration and tax-paying process, because you pay a $200 tax every time you make a short-barreled shotgun or transfer a short-barreled shotgun or transfer a suppressor or make or transfer a short-barreled rifle. Well, that's all sitting right now in the great big beautiful bill. It's going through this weekend and probably into next week what they call the bird bath. Unless you follow the legislative process in Congress pretty closely, the term bird bath is probably a little confusing. But it's Byrd, B-Y-R-D, named after Robert Byrd, who led the charge to pass a statute that requires any reconciliation bill, that is a bill primarily aimed at financial issues, finances and taxation. A reconciliation bill, a financial bill going through the Senate can pass on a simple majority. It's an exception to the rule that most bills in the Senate require a 60-vote majority to get past debate, to be called for a vote on the floor of the Senate, to get past debate, be called for a bill, to achieve what we call cloture, which is just that, getting past debate. If it's truly in the reconciliation bill and it's truly related to finances and taxation, and not more general forms of legislation or regulation, then it can be in a reconciliation bill. So what's a bird bath? Well, they call the Byrd rule that it really has to be financially related to be in reconciliation. The bird bath is where the Senate parliamentarian, who's currently a lady named Elizabeth McDonough, looks at everything in a proposed reconciliation bill and determines whether it's really finance and tax related. And if it doesn't make the cut, according to the parliamentarian enforcing the rules of the Senate, then it comes out. You know what, by the way, you know what senators, a little inside baseball, you know what senators call the provision of a reconciliation bill that fails the Byrd test and falls out? You're probably guessing this right now, yelling at your radio. Yeah, it's called a bird dropping. No kidding. It gets dropped out of the bill under the bird bath, under the Byrd rule. And that's exactly what the Short Act, which would deregulate short-barreled shotguns and short-barreled rifles, and the Hearing Protection Act provisions that are in the great big beautiful bill, that's the scrutiny they're going through right now. We should hear, perhaps as early as over the weekend, more likely by the middle of next week, whether the deregulation of short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, and suppressors made it through the bird bath process, and whether that has then a likelihood of passing, assuming the great big beautiful bill otherwise passes. And obviously there's a huge debate about adding money to the budget, any number of other issues. And you've got some holdouts in the Senate among Republicans. There's a whole nother battle to be fought. But it's something all of us are taking a very close look at. And listen, that you combine this with what I've talked about for the last couple of weeks, which is Indiana now being added to the list of NICS-exempt states where you can present a license to carry handgun issued within the last 5 years as a substitute for a NICS check. You combine that with the deregulation of suppressors, deregulation in terms of taking them out of the NFA. They're still considered firearms. And frankly, I don't think they should be. That's why I was more of a fan of the SHUSH Act. Silencers Help Us Save Hearing, which would have actually deregulated suppressors completely, not even treated them as firearms, treated them just like an accessory, like an optic or a bipod. But under the Hearing Protection Act, they're treated as firearms. Now with the NICS-exempt licenses, if your gun store is willing to participate in this process, if the Great Big Beautiful bill passes as it's currently configured, I could now walk into my gun store, say, I want that suppressor right there, or I want that suppressed SBR right there, show my license to carry handgun issued within the last 5 years, fill out the 404073 form, pay for it, and walk out the door. That is an exciting development, and that is right on the horizon. If you have a question, you got a comment, give us a call, join the discussion, 317-239-9393. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Karine Jean-Pierre. Latest to put some tell-all book out there about the Biden White House and...
Oh, her horrible book. Karine Jean-Pierre and her horrible book. Ugh.
She's saying that she is leaving the Democrat Party now because of the way the party treated Joe Biden.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. We've got a next iteration of our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class coming up on Saturday, July 12th. It's going to be at Indy Arms, 9 a.m. for 2 o'clock p.m. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information that you need as an Indiana gun owner, including a detailed discussion of the use of force, including deadly force and self-defense. That's going to be right there at Indy Arms, 2550 East 55th Street. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there for 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you really need. If you carry a gun, you own a gun, and have a gun for home defense, this is the information you need to know. We'd love to see you there. Sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a $1,000 small business bonus when you switch to a qualifying gig speed package from the company with over 99.99% network reliability. Just imagine the thousands of possibilities of a $1,000 prepaid card. Like possibility number 1, company merch for staff. Styling. Or possibility number 24, the latest software. Upgrade. Or possibility number 192, new equipment powered by gig speeds. Or possibility number 555, a 3D printer. Rapid prototyping, anyone? Switch to Comcast Business for over 99.99% network reliability, advanced cybersecurity, and now get started with a $1,000 small business bonus. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
In 6/22/25, new customers only with 2-year agreement. Other restrictions apply.
Beck Toyota has been sold to the Hubler Automotive Group, and this is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Choose from Camrys, Corollas, Highlanders, Tundras, and more. Lease a new 2025 Toyota RAV4, just $349 per month, or a new Tacoma, $299 per month. So if you've been turned away due to the crowds, come back. This is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Don't miss it on US 31 South in Indianapolis, across from Hubler Chevrolet. Visit HublerToyota.com. New RAV4s, $349 per month, or new Tacomas, $299 per month. All offers end June 30th. Select models, approved credit, plus tax tag title license, $199 dealer doc, RAV4 model 4432, Tacoma model 7540, 36 months, $29.99 due, 0 security, 10,000 annual miles, 15 cents per mile thereafter.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
I'm a veteran. We hit a mine in Vietnam. When I came home, I didn't know where to turn.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My victory's been never giving up hope. My wife is always there to remind me we have a life to live.
DAV provides a lifetime of support, helping veterans of every generation get the benefits they've earned.
I am a veteran,
But after I got out, I spent 2 years alone and homeless.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans so they can reach victories great and small.
My victory was finding the support to get back on my feet. Now I'm getting things right with my family.
I finally admitted, with my PTSD, I wasn't doing well.
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
Now I wish I'd found DAV sooner. I am a veteran. My victory is just enjoying each day.
Help support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Buying a diamond has changed. There are mined and lab-grown diamonds. Pierce Jewelers carries both. Pierce can educate you and save your hard-earned money. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So as we talked about last segment, waiting the decision of the Senate parliamentarian. By the way, somebody commented on the YouTube chat that parliamentarian can be overruled. Well, that can be done on the floor of the Senate, but that actually jeopardizes the entire filibuster rule. And Senate Majority Leader Senator Thune has already come out, or Thune, depending on how you pronounce it, and said that he would absolutely oppose any Senate proposal to override the parliamentarian. So is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Absolutely not. So what Elizabeth McDonough, as the parliamentarian, has to say on this so-called bird bath, and that is whether or not the deregulation of short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns and suppressors survives the Senate rule that a reconciliation bill has to be truly related to finances and tax. That is incredibly unlikely. In fact, I put it right in the no damn way category. And I think that is an important thing to consider as we look at how these events unfold. We've got Buzz who's called in, so let's go to the phone lines. By the way, join the discussion, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. But we'll go to the phone lines. Buzz, welcome back to the Gun Guy Show, man.
Good afternoon, Guy. Glad to hear you.
You too, sir.
Okay, I can see confusion. Say, all I want is I get my 5-year license, and I go and I buy a suppressor and go through all that. Well, I let it expire. I can see confusion as if something were to happen, an officer pulls up my license and it will say expired. It doesn't recognize that I still have. I can see the confusion in the computer.
No,
glitch.
Buzz, there's two different issues. There's registration, transfer on one side of things, and then there's possession. If suppressors and short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns are deregulated out of NFA, and there's nothing in Indiana, which there is not, to say they're illegal just to possess them, then an officer's got no reason to have a problem with you when you've got one in your car or otherwise. If they're deregulated under NFA, they're not illegal under Indiana law. The only thing relevant about your 5-year license is what allowed that gun shop to transfer it to you before your license expired. You don't have to show your license to an officer to say, hey, I still have my 5-year license. That's why I'm legal to have this suppressed short-barreled rifle in your vehicle. I don't have to show that to an officer. It's irrelevant to an officer because if it's deregulated under NFA, there's nothing that prevents my possession of it. So you got to transfer out you got to separate out, I should say, the transfer of it, which your 5-year makes legal as long as it's valid, from the possession of it later on. There, your license is irrelevant. You see the distinction?
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the end of 5 years, it will come up that it is expired.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant to you already owning the suppressed short-barreled rifle.
Oh, no, yeah, right. I mean, if I get a traffic stop or something like that, and when it comes up that
No, you're still not following me, Buzz. I'm sorry, buddy, but you don't need a valid 5-year license to possess. We're assuming the Great Big Beautiful Bill passes in its current form. You don't need a current 5-year license to possess anything. You don't need to possess a handgun. And I put this lifetime license in the same category. You don't need it to possess a handgun because we have constitutional carry. You don't need it to possess a short-barreled rifle. You don't need it just to possess a suppressor. It doesn't matter whether it's expired. If it was valid at the time you bought it, then that made the transfer from the gun shop to you legal. After that, the 5-year license is irrelevant. So hope you're tracking me on that. And didn't mean to cut you off, but we were about ready to just repeat what we'd already gone through. Tell you what, we're at the bottom of the hour. We had a little bit of short segment. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
The ownership is transferred to his daughters, taking over a family business of this magnitude, this much in the public eye. That's a whole different level of can't be easy. Massive shoes to fill. No one needs to tell you that. People absolutely embrace this franchise and what it means to the city, what it means to the state. Go get them. I truly hope it all works the way you want it to. Honestly, all the best.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
The deals at Andy Moore Ford continue. We're talking about that employee pricing. Employee pricing at Andy Moore Ford across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. That's right. You pay what they pay at Andy Moore Ford. Get $17,000 off MSRP on new 2024 F-150s or buy a new Ford Super Duty truck for under $40,000. 175 different trucks to choose from. And if you're looking to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has never been better. Every vehicle comes with $500 in Andy Moore cash and $2,500 more for your trade. Plus, drive with no payments all summer long. Talk to Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Find out how easy it is to get your new car, truck, SUV, or fleet vehicle at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield or online at Andy Moore Ford. That's MOHR. I love Andy. AndyMooreFord.com.
With everything going on, it may be hard to imagine one more thing to worry about. But clothes dryers cause thousands of house fires every year, and dirty ductwork in your home is filling the air you breathe with pollutants and allergens. Should you worry? Not if you contact Safe Dryer and Air Duct Solutions, a locally owned, veteran-operated business offering fast, reliable duct and dryer vent cleaning services, making your home safer and your air healthier. WIBC listeners save 10% off any service. One less thing to worry about. Go to safedads.net.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock, because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's Diamond Engagement Ring Store.
Fox News, I'm Daria Albinger. Pro-Palestinian activist and Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil arrived at Newark International Airport today.
The fact that they put me in that place, that didn't mean that I was not free. I continued to advocate for Palestinians, for the immigrants who are left behind in that facility.
The Justice Department argues Khalil's activism could be a threat to U.S. foreign policy interests. President Trump still wants his big, beautiful bill passed by the 4th of July. New York Congressman Mike Lawler speaking to Fox News.
This is about ending double taxation, making sure that people are not being penalized because of high property taxes or state income taxes.
Opponents say the bill cuts too much from entitlement programs. America's listening to Fox News.
From marshmallow festivals to fireworks on the shore. No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. During Hubler's Freedom to Drive, shop any of our 13 locations. and choose from Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles during our Freedom to Drive. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
JMV here. The summer sales continue to heat up at Miss M's Home and Garden. Shop the great selection of high-quality trees and shrubs and save more when you buy more. Now, when you buy 2, you save 10%. Buy 4, you save 20%. And get this, buy 6 or more trees or shrubs, and you save 30%. If you're looking to redo the landscape or add color, now is the time to buy. Miss M's Home and Garden on State Road 135, south of Whiteland Road in Bargersville. MissMsHomeandGarden.com.
Road trip!
This summer at Tire Discounters, your tires are your passport to savings, because you're driving to Paris,
Texas,
then it's off to Rome,
Georgia,
and you'll be kissing the Blarney Stone in Dublin,
Ohio!
Right now, save up to $434 when you buy 4 tires, and that includes a free alignment and oil change. Stop at Tire Discounters before you see the world.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, Annie has called in. It's always a pleasure to talk to Annie. Annie, welcome back to The Gun Guy Show.
Hi, Don. Hi, Guy. I was kind of perplexed when I heard you talking about the McCloskey case briefly on Monday on a Hammer and Nigel show.
I'm sorry. You heard me talk about what, Annie?
Talk about the McCloskey case.
Oh, yeah, in Missouri, where people were waving their guns around. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, I'm a little old lady without a computer, never had email. So I don't have access to a lot of information other than what friends show me on their tablets. But I was under the impression that this mob had broken into their gated community and was trespassing by their house on the sidewalks. They were outside barefooted in the photos, and they were, quote, brandishing their guns. And their dog was out there, and apparently their dog barked at the mob that came in, and someone in the mob threatened to shoot their dog and burn their house down. Well, I have nothing against them going inside and getting their guns to try to keep that from happening. And they had worked on that house. They had sweat equity in that house for about 30 years. They loved it, of restoring it. And Americans were tired of being asked to sacrifice our sons and daughters to a new war, or to just give up something that we've worked for decades and have put our heart and soul into. We're sick. We're so sick of it. So apparently the gun that Mrs. McCloskey was quote brandishing, they were apparently recovering liberal attorneys. They had used that gun in court knowing it was a non-working gun. And so Mrs. McCloskey knew she was, quote, brandishing a non-working pistol, but that didn't stop her. She had got side-mired him as recovering liberal.
So, Annie, all this time, since I did Monday Gun Day on Hammer and Nigel last Monday, you've been stewing over my comments about the McCloskey case and couldn't wait to call in.
I was just listening I would like some questions. I don't have a computer. I was wanting you to tell me, is it true that they were threatened with burning their house and shooting their dog? And I heard that I don't know if this is true or not, but at the time the rumors were floating around.
Yeah, well,
the lady district attorney was a George Soros client, and she took the gun that was non-working. They had confiscated from Mrs. McCloskey. She gave it to Gunsmith, and they made it a working gun, and they used that against her as brandishing a, quote, working gun. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know whether that's true or not. That was certainly an allegation that floated around as those folks were being prosecuted. For those people who may not know about this case, And I did talk about this. It just came up spontaneously when I was doing Monday Gun Day on Hammer and Nigel last Monday. But this was during, the Summer of Love, as Hammer and Nigel like to call it, in 2020, and there were a lot of protests and whatnot. And these are two attorneys that lived in a suburb of out in Missouri. I started to say suburb of Kansas City, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. My memory fades. But they lived in a gated community, and yes, some protesters had actually broken a gate and came into their gated community. And these folks decided to grab a couple of firearms and go out in their yard. And in the process of these protesters walking by, and I never saw any video evidence or any other form of evidence that said protesters did anything other than walk by on the sidewalk. And these folks went out and were waving their guns around, pointing them at each other and at the folks walking by. And I've been critical of them from day one. I will remain critical of them. First of all, you break it down two different issues. Let's talk about tactically first and legally second. If you have a potential threat, when you're in your home, is it smarter to remain behind cover in a secure location that you have complete control of and prepare to defend yourself and prevent, and I'll apply Indiana law here, even though this happened in Missouri, let's assume it happened in Indiana, prepare yourself to prevent what's called an unlawful attack on or entry into your dwelling, which puts you squarely within the Castle Doctrine, which allows you to use reasonable force, including deadly force, but to all do that from a position of safety and cover. What's cover? Something that will stop a bullet. So just in terms of what's smart, am I going to wander outside the protective walls of my home with my firearm to go wave my gun around at a whole bunch of people, dozens of people, I don't know what the total number were, walking by? Who knows whether any of those people are. So does it make sense for me to walk out in front of God and everybody, now beyond cover, no protection whatsoever, and then proceed to, and brandishing is not a crime we have in Indiana. People use that term as if it's a crime. It's not in Indiana, but that we have pointing a firearm, which is a crime. And the McCloskeys were clearly doing that. They were sweeping each other, pointing the muzzle of their guns at each other, which is just dumb from a safety perspective. And potentially a crime that we have here in Indiana called pointing a firearm. So we have pointing a firearm, we have intimidation with a deadly weapon, where if you make a threat through words or conduct using a firearm, that's intimidation with a deadly weapon. And, somebody saying out loud, I'm going to shoot your dog, or I'm going to burn your house down. Well, people say stupid things all the time. Did you reasonably believe, and by the way, your dog's just considered your property under Indiana law. As much as we all love our dogs, look, I'm a dog person. And I would have a very hard time complying with this element of Indiana law. But Indiana law says your dog's just your property, and you can't use deadly force to defend your property. And because of a really bad case we have in Indiana, and we've been trying to fix this legislatively for a while, but because of a case called Nance versus State, you can't point your gun at someone to protect your property. So someone says, I'm going to shoot your dog. Can you point your gun at them? No, not in Indiana. And the law of Missouri is absolutely different on several points that I'm discussing here, but I'm not a Missouri attorney, and I won't go down that road. But just saying that I think they were dumb because they were dumb strategically and tactically, and they were dumb from waving guns around. It'd be a very easy place to get shot if someone sees you with a gun and decides, well, I've got a gun too. So it's not safe, it's not strategically or tactically smart, and it's very likely a crime. Yes, there were all kinds of allegations, and I read some of this too, that she was using a non-working gun, that is Mrs. McCloskey's were using a non-working gun. Guess what? A non-working gun in Indiana is still a gun legally, which makes it doubly dumb. So now I'm waving around a gun that doesn't work, which can then likely get me shot, and I don't even have the capacity to shoot back or to shoot preemptively. So I can inspire someone to kill me while I'm waving around a gun that doesn't work. Does that make any sense? Of course it does not, which fits squarely into my description of it as dumb. Secondly, if it can readily be converted to be an operable firearm, which obviously it was because the allegation was the prosecutor's office rendered it a working firearm. If it can be readily converted to be a working firearm, it's considered a firearm, so you have all the same liability and criminal culpability for waving around a non-functional firearm as you do a functional firearm, and you don't even have the protection of a functional firearm. Now, listen, do I think those people had a decent shot at being defended successfully in court? Yes. I actually don't know the outcome of the case. I want to say they pled to a misdemeanor, or I'm not quite sure. I actually do not remember what the outcome of that case was. But I will absolutely stand by my description of what those people did out there as being completely knuckleheaded, dumb, and potentially illegal, because they had no business wandering around out there waving their guns around when people were walking by protesting. And yes, they broke a gate to get into the community. That's not the same as breaking down the front door trying to get into your house. Break down the front door of your house trying to get into your house. Again, we'll apply Indiana law. That's an unlawful entry into your home. Now you can use deadly force. Would I do that? Somebody kicks my door in, tries to come into my home. Would I use deadly force? You betcha. No one's going to illegally enter my home if I have the capacity to defend it. And I'd like to think I have a rather substantial capacity in that regard. But breaking down the gate to your neighborhood isn't the same thing. And legally, it's not the same thing. So no, I'm not backing down, Annie. We love you and we love it when you call in. But I'm not backing down from my description of those people as being complete knuckleheads who invited a couple of things. They invited getting shot, which luckily I'm happy did not happen. They certainly invited getting prosecuted, which did happen. And I think the general consensus among those that understand self-defense and the law of self-defense would agree with me that they were knuckleheaded in the process. We're a little past the three-quarter hour. We're taking a break. We love our callers. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
How was your trip?
Yeah, I completely checked out as I was approaching Indiana and I was getting re-familiar with everything that had been going on. So the lieutenant governor said something controversial. The secretary of state's on another trip in a foreign country. And we have another state rep that allegedly had a cocktail or two and got behind the wheel. So pretty much status quo.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law offices of Guy Relford. You know, if you have something on your record, or you have a friend or family member this applies to, whether it's a felony conviction, a conviction for a crime of domestic violence, those prevent you from legally owning a firearm as the law exists today. However, there is a restoration process, whether it's expungement of a felony or a petition for restoration of rights. If you have a conviction for a crime of domestic violence, those are available to a lot of folks who have lost their gun rights over the years due to something on their record. There are limitations, there are time restrictions, and other limitations on getting those things done. But if you're curious, if any relief and the restoration of your firearm rights might be available to you, we'd love to talk about that with you at the law office of Guy Relford. So you can contact us through the website. It's just relfordlaw.com. Send us an email, give us a call, and we'll bounce right back. But if you'd like to have your rights restored, again, a friend or a family member, you'd like to have your Second Amendment rights restored, we'd love to talk to you about doing that. It's relfordlaw.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Has your house become a burden? Why not sell it to us? Simple Quarters is a local Christian company that loves to assist people in difficult situations. Simple Quarters has helped over 3,000 families sell their homes in Indiana.
Wanda's been in real estate. I've been in construction, so she would find properties that we could fix up and resell or rent.
Probably we've flipped about 40 houses. I don't want to do it anymore. Health is not good. We're in our early 80s. Sometimes you have to give it up.
James, he did a good job. James was very cordial and, like I say, responded to our phone calls and kept in contact with us. So he did a good job.
When I got the purchase agreement, and he did have things in there that was pertinent to me. It's important.
Yeah, James followed through on what he
Yeah.
said. Did what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
Other companies make broken promises, but at Simple Quarters, we keep our word. Sell your home to people you can trust. Call Simple Quarters at 317-900-HOME. 317-900-HOME.
Guys, looking for a Father's Day gift that will give Dad an extra boost of health and energy he needs to live his best life? Low T Center is offering free weight loss consultations and free T tests as a special offer celebrating dads. Treatment is personalized and most major insurance is accepted.
With the freedom to choose in-center care or at-home treatment, you're helping put Dad back in control of his health. Now, until the 21st, enjoy a free B12 shot when you stop in for TRT and weight loss. Offer limited. Book now at fixmylowt.com.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Plumbing problems stink. The LD Smith Crew can handle anything. Call today for $50 off any plumbing repair, big or small.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
If you're pressed for time, the WIBC Mashup Podcast is your shortcut to the smartest, sharpest, and strangest moments on air. It's the best content from Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, and Hammer and Nigel. Updated daily. Find the WIBC Mashup wherever you get your podcasts. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. On the recurrent issue that has popped up again here on the show about the ability to use an Indiana license to carry handgun as a substitute for a NICS check, which is a background check done by the FBI through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, assuming that, or provided that license was issued within the last 5 years. That is in effect right now. What's interesting is, and I want to put a call out, if you have used your license to carry to buy a firearm without a NICS check, or if you're an FFL, meaning a gun retailer, and you've decided to accept a license to carry issued within the last 5 years, whether it's a lifetime that was issued within the last 5 years or a 5-year license, then give us a call, 317-239-9393, especially if you're an FFL. But even if you've just successfully done that at a gun store, I haven't tried yet. I've got some buddies who own gun stores, several buddies that own gun stores. A lot of them have been here on the show. We're having the discussion about whether they should accept this or not. And by the way, they don't have to declare a policy that applies to all purchasers. They actually have the ability for some people to say, yeah, I'm going to accept your license, and for other people, not. Now, I'm not suggesting they get themselves into some scrutiny on civil rights issues or anything like that. But if it's somebody you know, someone who's bought guns from you currently, someone who has, whatever kind of credentials, they're an instructor or police officer or whatever it might be, they have the legal ability to decide who they want to put through a NICS check and who they don't. But for those FFLs, or federal firearms licensees, or gun retailers, all means the same thing, I've had a lot of discussion about whether they should do this or not. And it's interesting because the term liability keeps coming up. Well, man, I don't want the liability if somebody shows me a license that's valid, was issued within the last 5 years, but it's since been suspended or revoked, but I don't know that. So I sell them the gun, and it turns out they're a prohibited person, and then they go commit a crime with that gun. I don't want the liability. Well, Indiana has a state version of the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And that says that if a firearm retailer or manufacturer lawfully sells a gun, puts a gun into the stream of commerce, they lawfully do that. They comply with all laws. And that gun is then used in a criminal act. They have absolute immunity against any liability for that. So if that person comes in with that suspended license, but you don't know it's suspended, you just can see it's been issued within the last 5 years, and you sell them the gun, which the ATF has told you specifically you can do, can the ATF come back and criticize you for that? Absolutely not. Secondly, if someone injured by a virtue of a criminal act that that person commits after having bought the gun from you and you complied with the law because they had a valid license issued within the last 5 years, do you have any liability for that? Absolutely not. You have immunity for that. And the point I've raised with a couple of folks is, one, we're not the first state to do this. This has been in place in 20-some states for a long damn time. I'm talking a couple of decades. And the ATF still elected to add more states to the list, Indiana included. So if this were a huge problem, and people were going through this process, showing suspended licenses, and then going and committing crimes, I don't think the ATF would continue to be adding states to the list. Secondly, this is how it worked before the Brady Bill in 1994. Old people like me will clearly remember you can walk in, show your license, buy a gun, and walk out. And lastly, there is no liability. You're protected from liability as long as you comply with the law, and the ATF has told you what the law is, which is you can do this and do this legally. So I'd really love to hear from retailers and or customers about whether you participated in this process. Right now, we're at the top of the hour. I got to take a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a DSNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A DSNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana DSNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a $1,000 small business bonus when you switch to a qualifying gig speed package from the company with over 99.99% network reliability. Just imagine the thousands of possibilities of a $1,000 prepaid card. Like possibility number 1, company merch for staff. Styling. Or possibility number 24, the latest software. Upgrade. Or possibility number 192, new equipment powered by gig speeds. Or possibility number 555, a 3D printer. Rapid prototyping, anyone? Switch to Comcast Business for over 99.99% network reliability, advanced cybersecurity, and now get started with a $1,000 small business bonus. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
In 6/22/25, new customers only with 2-year agreement. Other restrictions apply.
My name's Craig Landers. I'm a union laborer for Local 120, and I'm a member of the Veterans Steering Committee and been retired for 7 years.
For members of the Laborers International Union of North America, giving back is part of their commitment to the Indy community.
I like to help veterans and family downtown. Part of the building burnt down that housed the veterans that lived there. So we donated money to help out. They lost everything they had. I mean, they didn't have much. They lost what they did have.
When the Indy community needs help, help, LiUNA steps up.
People bring in clothes and shoes and food. We had a couple car shows and donated the proceeds to the Veteran Suicide Prevention.
This is Chris Bricky, Business Manager of Labor's Local 120. While all our members are skilled, highly trained men and women, we are also your friends, neighbors, Little League coaches, and volunteers here in Indy.
Pretty good to help them guys out. That's a good feeling to help people out.
We build Indy for good jobs and stronger communities. We are LiUNA Local 120.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News. 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
So still on the sidelines for now. I'm Daria Albinger, Fox News. Israel and Iran continue to attack each other as the conflict escalates. And that begs the question, is it time for the U.S. to get involved? Fox's Mike Tobin is in Tel Aviv.
Israeli fighter jets are active right now in the southwestern portion of Iran. According to the IDF, they're striking targets. And this follows another round of Iranian missiles that flew at central Israel last night. Those missiles once again creating fireballs in the sky as they re-entered the atmosphere. Israeli missile interceptors in hot pursuit in the sky. The town of Holon, next to Tel Aviv, took a hit, resulting in a fire on the top of an apartment building. No reports of injuries. This is the second time Holon has been hit in the past 3 days. Israeli warplanes have been on the hunt in Iran. The IDF reports the assassination of key Iranian figures. One of them was struck in a car.
Some Iranian missiles made it past Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. 6 B-2 stealth bombers from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri appear to be en route to a United States air base in Guam. Could they be used in an attack on Iran? Here's Fox's Lucas Tomlinson.
Experts say this noisy transit across the Pacific is a sign Trump is negotiating with Iran with a gun on the table. Moving B-2 bombers, each potentially armed with a pair of 15-ton bunker-busting bombs. One of the reasons we saw those tankers over Whiteman to refuel them when they launched from Missouri so they could top off with fuel because of the heavy load. Now, Guam will likely be the go, no-go site if Trump orders a strike on Iran's uranium enrichment plant at Fordo. If caught upon a strike, officials say they could launch a much quieter mission than leaving Missouri. The top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee says Trump should hold fire.
President Trump preparing to meet with his national security team. America's listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
A day after he was released from an immigration...
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Multiple people recovering from a shooting. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. IMPD is looking into a shooting from early Saturday morning that left 3 people injured, including a juvenile male. The shooting happened in downtown Indianapolis near West Michigan Street and Northwest Street by the canal. Officers said the victims were found with gunshot wounds but were alive and breathing. Marion police had the duty of arresting a fellow cop this week. Chris Davis reports on why.
Russell Rodriguez is a detention deputy employed by the Grant County Sheriff's Department. He was arrested Wednesday on a charge of domestic battery, though the Sheriff's Department says they can't say yet what led to those charges because the investigation is in its early stages. They did say in a news release Friday that the arresting agency, Marion Police, and the Sheriff's Department are doing their own investigations into the matter. Chris Davis, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
An investigation is underway in Columbus after a residential fire displaced 8 people. Firefighters say the fire caused heavy damage to a home and an attached carport. The blaze also spread to a nearby residence. No word yet on how the fire started. 13 new officers being sworn in this week as part of IMPD's 31st recruit class in Indianapolis. The department is facing a shortage of nearly 300 officers and is adapting its hiring practices to address that issue. And Game 7 of the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder coming up Sunday night. Both teams are seeking their first ever NBA title. The Pacers will have to take things on the road to win it in OKC. Tip-off set for 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and at WIBC.com.
A heat advisory is in place for all central Indiana all the way through Tuesday. Tonight, mostly clear skies, humid, low temperatures in the mid-70s. Sunny, hot, and humid, high temperatures once again in the low to mid-90s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
From marshmallow festivals to fireworks on the shore. No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. During Hubler's Freedom to Drive, shop any of our 13 locations and choose from Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles during our Freedom to Drive. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Tune in to the Absolute Retirement Planning Show.
When retirement comes about, we're now relying on what we have saved to meet those needs.
Sundays at 9 a.m. right here on 93 WIBC.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Glad you're with us. Had an interesting question that came in, or at least a recurrent question that came in over the YouTube feed for people watching the video and using the chat feature. And someone asked me, why is there this 5-year maximum in terms of the requirement to have a NICS-exempt purchase, that is, to bypass the NICS background check and buy a gun with your license to carry? Why is it that that license has to have been issued within the last 5 years? And again, this applies to both the 5-year license, which by definition was issued within the last 5 years, or a lifetime license. If it was issued within the last 5 years, you can use that as a substitute for a NICS check. And if it was issued 5 years and a day ago, you cannot. And somebody said, well, why 5 years? And I think I've talked about this before, but just to make that clear to anybody who's wondering the same thing, and that is that the logic is that if you pass the background check to get your license, and again, the ATF's requirement for any particular license to be NICS exempt, or what they call Brady exempt, meaning you can bypass the Brady Bill's requirement for a background check. The idea is that you've passed the background check required of the license, and one of the requirements is that the agency that issues you your license in Indiana, that's the Indiana State Police, that they have passed, or they have checked rather, as part of your background check, all of the same databases that NICS uses, including the NICS database itself, NCIC, the National Criminal Information Center, And they've checked against both state and federal law to determine whether you're a prohibited possessor. Well, the state police do all of that. And the idea is if you've passed that background check to get your license, then that ought to be an adequate substitute. But the idea is the closer in time between when you pass that background check to get your license and the date of the firearm purchase, the closer in time those two things are, the less likely it is you would have become a prohibited person in the interim. In other words, the less likely you would have been convicted of a felony, the less likely that you were convicted of a crime of domestic violence, the less likely you had a domestic violence order of protection taken out against you, the less likely you'd been adjudicated to be mentally ill, that is a danger to yourself or others, what the federal statute calls being mentally defective, as repugnant as that term is. So, in all the other state and federal laws that can make you a prohibited possessor, things like being dishonorably discharged from the military. And there are several others, but the less likely that is, or at least the less time has gone by, makes that less likely, is a better way to put it. And frankly, I'm surprised it's as long as 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it were something like 2 or 3 or 4. But they're willing to stretch it out to 5. Hey, great. And I would absolutely take advantage of that. But that's why. The logic is the closer in time to you passing the background check to get the license. And that background check to get your license has to include everything that NICS checks to pass you in an actual NICS background check. Then the less likely it is that you become prohibited since then. So I just want to answer that question. I'll tell you, we've had a couple other people call in. Frank's been on hold since before the break, so let's go to the phone lines. Frank, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hi, Guy. How are you?
Good, buddy. You doing all right?
Yep. Hey, work for an FFL. We do well over 100 transfers a month.
Oh, wow.
We've done, I believe, now 2 NICS exempt checks, and that's all. I think the vast majority of customers that do have a carry license, it's a lifetime and well older than 5 years.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But for one that for a customer that comes in and does have one, like I just got my brand new 5-year. Since I heard ATF had done this, I went right out and applied for my 5-year, got it in a week. Cheers to the state police for being so incredibly efficient. So if I walked in with my 5-year license, would your FFL sell me a gun NICS exempt?
Absolutely, not a problem.
No kidding. Well, yeah, you don't have to, and I'll defer to your preference. But you care to name them, because I think people want to know where they can go in and do this.
No, I probably shouldn't.
That's fair. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Frank.
No,
that was probably
on the spot. Since I'm not the owner.
You know what? Let the owner know that I asked you that question. I think that's a good call on your part, not being the owner.
Yeah,
you don't want to put that out there.
If you think about it, you may know who I am. We've met.
Okay, all right. Well, that narrows it down a little bit, but I know a lot of FFLs. But
Sure.
Talk to your owner and because I would like to hear from FFLs, because frankly, that's one of the things when I've talked to my buddies who own gun stores, Frank. They said, well, why should I do this? Why don't I want to just have the extra security of the NICS check? And I go, listen, if that's your decision, I respect it 1,000%. But first of all, you're legally protected. And secondly, I think it can give you a competitive advantage. And it's not that people are trying to avoid the NICS check because they're prohibited possessors. I think the likelihood of that is very, very low. I just think it feels good. It feels like you're... Yeah, it feels like you're exercising your Second Amendment rights with less government interference when I can just walk in, show my license, and walk out with my gun. That just feels good to me because the government is less involved in my life in that moment, and I'm all in favor of that. But I think FFLs that are willing to do this, I'd love to endorse them. I'd love to get their names out there. I'd love to get them some business because I do think it can and should be a competitive advantage. But thanks to Frank for calling in. I think he made the right call. If he's not the owner, probably doesn't want to throw that name out there. Let's go back to the phone lines. And Rick has called with a whole separate question. Rick, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
I do, sir. I got a question. My son is 20 years old, and every once in a while he'll go out and he'll grab one of my sidearms and he'll take one of my sidearms with him to go gallivanting around in the evening time. Now, if he goes out, he's 20 years old. He does not have his card yet. But with Indiana being a constitutional state, could he get in trouble if his shirt or his jacket falls over the firearm? Is he going to get in trouble with that, or does he need to just not carry until he gets his card?
Well, no. I mean, based on what you just described to me, Rick, and obviously he's not a prohibited possessor, right? Doesn't have a felony conviction or anything like that. No, based on what you just told me, he's totally legal because constitutional carry covers both open and concealed. So if you're concerned about, like you said, his shirt, blows back in the wind, somebody sees he's carrying a gun, open carry is still totally legal under constitutional carry. And the fact that he's 20 years old is not a problem at all because our constitutional carry statute, unlike many other states, and a lot of people don't know this, a lot of other states restrict constitutional carry to people 21 and up. And by the way, if you're 18 to 20 years old and you want to travel and legally carry in other states, make sure you're checking around other states because just reading somewhere on a website like USCCA reciprocity page or looking at it on an app like My CCW, I say mine, I didn't create it or anything. I just have it on my phone. It's a great app for looking at the laws of different states. If it just says they have constitutional carry, that's only half the question. The other question is it for people only 21 and up? And the majority of the 29, hopefully North Carolina does the right thing, soon to be 30 states that have constitutional carry, it's for 21 and up. Now, some are like Indiana, 18 and up, but many aren't. And the logic behind that is simple for Indiana because you can get your license to carry at 18. And for the most part, constitutional carry only applies to those people that can pass the background check to get a license. So why wouldn't we allow that same population of people to carry under constitutional carry? So yeah, 18 to 20 years old and above can carry under constitutional carry, open or concealed. It's not limited to a particular firearm. Like, you say he's taking one of your guns. Obviously, we don't have registration in Indiana, so the gun doesn't have to be, quote unquote, registered to him. As long as it's a legally possessed firearm under constitutional carry, he's not a prohibited possessor, 18 plus, good to go. So great question, Rick. I'm glad you called. Right now at the quarter hour, let's go ahead and take a break. Give us a call with your question. We've had fabulous callers tonight. Great questions. I love taking your calls. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. I do want to continue to give the shout out and solicit calls. If you're an FFL who's accepting NICS exempt transfers with a license to carry issued within the last 5 years, if you've bought a gun just using your license to carry, and even if you don't want to name the shop, I'd love to hear about what your experience was. And if an FFL wants to get some acknowledgement here on the show because they're going down this path, hey, I want to acknowledge you because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think your customers are going to appreciate it. I think you'll have more customers as a result. But right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Weatherman upset that Trump cutting some funding to the National Weather Service.
The war on science.
Yeah, tell me more about that science that told me I had to wear a mask made in China that didn't protect me from anything. Tell me about the science of 6 feet apart. Tell me about the science of being in a restaurant. You can sit down and eat with no mask, but you got to stand up and wear a mask. But if you go to Cannes, you got to stand back up and put it on again.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up Saturday, July 12th at Indy Arms on the northeast side of Indy. It's 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner, including a detailed discussion of the law of self-defense, when you can use reasonable force, when you can use deadly force in self-defense or defense of others, or the defense of your home. The rules change a little bit depending on where you are, whether you're home or not. We go into all of that in a lot of detail. How to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like intimidation with a deadly weapon or criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, pointing a firearm, which is a crime in Indiana. Talk about all those things and a lot more. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. Check it out at tactical-firearms.com. Click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers.
And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet, so make a free call to Page Publishing. Turn your book idea into publishing gold.
800-215-6818. 800-215-6818. That's 800-215-6818.
Hey, this is Denny Smith for LD Smith Plumbing. Lance Smith joins me right now. No, we're not related, but I'd be proud to call him my son, my uncle, my cousin, whatever. Lance, welcome to the studio.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, sump pumps, they're coming up. You guys, it's probably time to get your sump pump special. You brag on this every year.
Yep, it's a real deal. Free primary sump pump with the purchase of a battery backup system. Simple as that. No hidden labor fees or anything like that. 317-927-7186 or ldsmithplumbing.com.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it. But not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to Hims.com/joy. HIMS.com/JOY.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Trump country is booming. We're building, hiring, and winning in Indiana because energy tax credits put America first, bringing manufacturing jobs home and creating a stronger middle class.
Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices for consumers.
And America's comeback depends on American energy. Senator Young, keep what works. Don't repeal energy tax credits. Paid for by Built for America.
Retirement planning can be confusing. That's why Expedition Retirement now has a new name. Join us for Fire Your Financial Advisor, Sunday mornings at 7 on WIBC.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
There are screening tests to catch cancer early. Visit cancer.org/getscreened.
Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's family-owned jewelry store, is dedicated to quality and fine craftsmanship. Let them help you celebrate that special moment in your life. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. You know, I was looking at Twitter over the break, and I was reminded of a comment I got on there. I had posted talking about this combination of the Short Act, or at least the Short Act provisions of the Great Big Beautiful Bill, and the Hearing Protection Act provisions that are also in that same bill, that those pass. You combine that with the NICS exempt license we now have in Indiana that would allow me or you, or most people, to walk in, show my license to carry, issued within the last 5 years, and if the Great Big Beautiful Bill were to pass in its current form, I could literally, as I mentioned earlier in the show, buy a suppressed SBR and walk out with it. And the only requirement being that I show my license to carry, fill out the 404073, and pay for it. And I said, I want to be the first kid on my block to buy a suppressed SBR. Now, I don't really need another suppressed SBR, but I think I would manufacture a desire to do exactly that, just to say I did it. Kind of like when I built my SBS the very first day I could, having filed for my tax stamp, my Form 1 to build an SBS the moment that Indiana decriminalized short-barreled shotguns. And one of the comments I got, and I want to address this because this is something I get a bunch. And if you listen to the Gun Guy Show, you probably have friends like this. And a great big part of me empathizes, and I get it. And listen, if somebody wants to compare resumes on fighting for constitutional rights and on fighting for the Constitution generally, you know what? I'll compare resumes on that. But I get this all the time. One of the comments I got to me saying I want to be the first kid on my block to go in and buy a suppressed SBR with just my license to carry, if all this comes together the way we hope it does, and very likely could. And one of the comments I got, because I also made mention of the fact that I just applied for and got my new 5-year license, one of the comments I got was something is very, very similar to what I've gotten a bunch of times over the years, especially on social media. And it was, well, congratulations on getting your new little government permission slip, was the term this gentleman used, a guy named by the name of Rusty on Twitter. Congratulations on getting your new little government permission slip. Apparently you don't understand that shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. All those laws are unconstitutional, and free men don't need permission slips from the government. Now, I'm paraphrasing. That's generally it. But in other words, shall not be infringed in the Second Amendment means that essentially, and I get this all the time, all gun control laws are unconstitutional. And free men don't comply with unconstitutional laws. Okay, all right. And there's some great quotes from history, say that when laws are unjust, then resistance becomes a moral obligation. And I get all that. And I can quote you a lot of the founding fathers and what they had to say on exactly that issue. And listen, I'm built the same way in terms of not wanting to comply with unjust or unconstitutional laws. And I'm a guy who decided to make a living, actually build a career about fighting for constitutional rights. So I don't really need a lecture on that point. But this idea that all gun control laws are unconstitutional, and that I've been called this, I talk about, well, you need to comply with this law and that law. I'm explaining what the laws are to people, and I'll get called a term like, say, a bootlicker. Oh, well, I'm glad you got your new little government permission slip, you bootlicker. Like I'm licking the boot that's oppressing me, that's got, pressure on the back of my neck. And I want to address this because, and I guarantee you, you and I both have friends who have this mentality. Free men don't comply. Okay. All right. Then I'll tell you what, I'll meet you outside the ATF office. You go ahead and very simple machining, very easily done on your workbench. Go ahead and convert your AR to full auto. I'll meet you out in front of the ATF office. And we'll walk in and we'll just have you declare that the restriction on machine guns that's currently in the NFA, which is going to be just about that, and destructive devices, will be the only thing regulated by the NFA if the great big beautiful bill passes in its current form. But let's just walk in and we'll just declare that free men don't comply. And by God, you're going to own a full auto machine gun if you so choose. And the law requiring NFA regulation and prohibiting registration of anything manufactured after 1986, we'll just declare that unconstitutional, and you and I, and by God, we'll fight that. And listen, if you got a whole bunch of money set aside, I'm talking 5 or 6 figures, for years and years of litigation and an appeal going all the way up to Supreme Court, and you're willing to spend a substantial amount of time in prison if it doesn't work, let's go fight that fight. If you're willing to go on social media and lecture me about all gun control laws are unconstitutional, and look, I get it. Shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. I get that part. But we have to deal with the reality that the Supreme Court of the United States has said very clearly, is in the Heller decision, one of the most important pro-2A decisions we've ever gotten, that established, yes, there is an individual right to bear arms in a 5-4 decision. For the first time ever, Supreme Court said, yes, there is an individual right to bear arms. 4 justices of the Supreme Court said, no, if you're not in a militia, meaning today the National Guard, the Second Amendment does nothing for you. By 1 vote, they said, yes, it's an individual right. However, that is not to say that long-standing limitations on Second Amendment rights are not still constitutional, and that reasonable regulations, quote unquote, are still permissible under the Constitution. If the Supreme Court said that, now, you and I can disagree, and we can say, no, we're purists. We think the founders meant no gun control whatsoever. But that's not up to us. Who's that up to? It's up to the courts. Now, we can say free men don't comply, and we can build our own machine guns, and we can do whatever. So we have unregistered short-barreled rifles, build our own suppressors. And listen, a big part of me completely empathizes with the desire to do that. Don't get me wrong. But make no mistake, you get caught with that, you're going to prison. And you can tell your roommate Bubba exactly how unconstitutional that law is unless a court, following Supreme Court precedent, agrees with you and declares the law unconstitutional and orders the bailiff to remove your handcuffs, you're going to prison. And you can talk about free men don't comply. Guess what? How free are you sitting in federal prison for owning an unregistered machine gun? Because there are a whole bunch of people sitting in federal prison right now telling their roommates how unjust it is that they're in prison. They're still in prison. Now, does that mean we don't fight the good fight? Of course not. It's what I do for a living. That's what kills me when people start lecturing me on this point. You're sitting there typing on a keyboard saying free men don't comply. Okay. I'm out fighting for constitutional rights every day. That's what I do for a living. I'm the guy who took the case to the Indiana Court of Appeals arguing to have our red flag law declared unconstitutional. No other lawyer in Indiana has done that. I did that. In a 2-1 decision, the Court of Appeals disagreed with me, and the Supreme Court didn't want to take it. But I took that case. By the way, did it about 90% pro bono, meaning I discounted my fee that much because I wanted to win that damn case. But this, it's people trying to come across as tough guys on social media and talking about how everybody else complies with the law. Well, by God, they're more macho, they're tougher, they're more constitutional purists than the rest of us, and free men don't comply, and all gun control is unconstitutional. Hey, have the courage of your convictions, man. Go get yourself arrested. Let's fight it. I'm exactly the guy to go make the constitutional arguments. But unless you're willing to put this all on ultimately appealing to the Supreme Court of the United States and having current laws overruled and declared unconstitutional by a court, your butt's going to jail. And if you don't have the courage to do that, then spare me the lecture on social media. And the name calling, I can really do without. So forgive the rant, but I felt the need to go down that road. We want to go back to the phone lines. If anyone wants to call with a question or comment, including you want to call me a bootlicker or explain to me what free men do or don't do, hey, that's fine too. Give us a call at 317-239-9393. Right now, we're a little past the bottom of the hour. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
The ownership has transferred to his daughters, taking over a family business of this magnitude, this much in the public eye. That's a whole different level of can't be easy. Massive shoes to fill. No one needs to tell you that. People absolutely embrace this franchise and what it means to the city, what it means to the state. Go get them. I truly hope it all works the way you want it to. Honestly, all the best.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating. Family owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
Beck Toyota has been sold to the Hubler Automotive Group, and this is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Choose from Camrys, Corollas, Highlanders, Tundras, and more. Lease a new 2025 Toyota RAV4, just $349 per month, or a new Tacoma, $299 per month. So if you've been turned away due to the crowds, come back. This is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Don't miss it on US 31 South in Indianapolis, across from Hubler Chevrolet. Visit HublerToyota.com. New RAV4s, $349 per month, or new Tacomas, $299 per month. All offers end June 30th. Select models, approved credit, plus tax tag title license, 199 dealer doc, RAV4 model 4432, Tacoma model 7540, 36 months, $29.99 due, 0 security, 10,000 annual miles, 15 cents per mile thereafter.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers and Carmel, designers of fine custom jewelry.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Following another Israeli attack on Iran, Iran fired back with missiles.
Those missiles once again creating fireballs in the sky as they re-enter the atmosphere. Israeli missile interceptors in hot pursuit in the sky.
Fox's Mike Tobin in Tel Aviv. President Trump says he will decide within 2 weeks whether to bomb an underground Iranian nuclear facility. Former Columbia graduate student Mahmoud Khalil is free after 3 months of ICE detention for his pro-Palestinian protests.
The fact that they put me in that place, that didn't mean that I was not free. I continued to advocate for Palestinians, for the immigrants who are left behind.
A judge granted bail, ruling that Khalil was neither a flight risk or a public danger. America is listening to Fox News.
It's Terry Stacy. How many of you started the year with good intentions of losing weight and getting in shape by spring? Well, if you didn't hit that goal, Exercise Inc. can help. Exercise Inc. has been helping people get stronger, build muscle, lose weight, and transform their health for over 20 years. The program works, and guess what? It only takes 20 minutes a week. Their unique training method was developed in an osteoporosis research study to help prevent bone mineral loss in older women. The women in the study ended up getting very strong in a short amount of time. When the method was applied to normal, healthy adults, both men and women got a lot stronger. Their Simple 9 nutritional program has helped their clients lose over 37,000 pounds since 2013, and they've seen clients lower their blood pressure, improve their blood sugar, and get off prescription meds. Their coaches are professional, their gyms are private. Get started now before summer gets here. Locations in Avon, Brownsburg, Fishers, Greenwood, and Zionsville. Change your life in 20 minutes a week. Go to exerciseinc.com.
The deals at Andy Moore Ford continue. We're talking about that employee pricing. Employee pricing at Andy Moore Ford across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. That's right. You pay what they pay at Andy Moore Ford. Get $17,000 off MSRP on new 2024 F-150s or buy a new Ford Super Duty truck for under $40,000. 175 different trucks to choose from. And if you're looking to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has has never been better. Every vehicle comes with $500 in Andy Moore cash and $2,500 more for your trade. Plus, drive with no payments all summer long. Talk to Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Find out how easy it is to get your new car, truck, SUV, or fleet vehicle at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford. That's MOHR.
I love Andy.
AndyMooreFord.com.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford with The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And by the way, I do want to make a point that there are lots of opportunities for the citizen constitutionalist, the citizen activist, in conjunction with attorneys, to make a big difference. I mean, again, I mentioned the Heller case. That was somebody in Washington, D.C., who was extremely concerned with the fact that Washington, D.C. essentially banned handgun ownership. I mean, it's really true. They said, well, you have to be issued a license from the authorities in the District of Columbia before you can purchase a gun or possess a gun. And they just didn't issue licenses for handguns. So it was a de facto ban on handguns altogether. And Mr. Heller said that's not okay, and brought a lawsuit because he was prohibited. He didn't go buy a gun out of an alley somewhere and go walk around with it saying free men don't comply, like some of my former contacts on social media. Instead, he filed a lawsuit and said, well, I'm not going to just go break this law because I don't want to go to prison, but I still want to fight it. So he filed a lawsuit and said the law is unconstitutional. It ends up going to the Supreme Court of the United States and becoming really the first Second Amendment decision we had in decades, and established finally into the debate over whether the Second Amendment protects, doesn't create. Our rights don't come from a piece of paper in the form of the Constitution. The Constitution protects our rights. Our rights come from God. But it protects our individual right to bear arms. And that's because a citizen decided to take that on. Much more recently, Mr. Cargill is the one who thought it was ridiculous that ATF on its own, without any legislation from Congress, had banned bump stocks. So he filed a lawsuit. Now, he had gun rights groups behind him and financing behind him. Heller had NRA and other groups behind him as well. But Cargill filed a lawsuit. And he won. And in the meantime, got the Supreme Court to clearly distinguish between full auto firearms and semi-automatic firearms. It said they are fundamentally different, and one cannot be regulated like the other. That's huge. And I was a citizen activist that did that. So make no mistake, I'm not putting down the role that a citizen activist can have. It's huge. But they see an unjust law, and rather than just ignoring it, walking around strutting on social media in the meantime about how free men don't comply and all laws are unconstitutional, they filed a lawsuit and eventually won. And that's how we're winning the battle. And that's absolutely doable. And that's what I've done and will do through however many years I have left in this long career. So I didn't want to create the impression that I don't absolutely support and recognize the role that we've had on Second Amendment freedoms in this country through the willingness of citizen advocates and citizen activists to be involved and put their name on a case and take it forward. A lot of times it takes a lot of resources behind them, but those resources are available. And, you know, back in the day, it was kind of NRA and not much else. And, man, here recently, you've got Gun Owners of America, you got Second Amendment Foundation, you got the National Firearms Coalition Firearms Policy Coalition, excuse me, I misstated that. And a lot of other groups that will get involved. And by the way, we just had a decision within the last couple of days in the Ninth Circuit, which is the federal appellate court that oversees the trial courts in several western states, including California. And a big win out there. What was that? There was a law in California, state law, passed. There was essentially a firearms rationing bill. What do I mean by a firearms rationing bill? It said you could not buy more than one firearm per month. So if I wanted to go into a gun store, let's say I had 3 adult children, which I happen to have, and I want to buy each of them a firearm as a present, which is totally legal, because they're all legally capable of buying their own firearm, and I can buy a firearm as a gift. So I want to walk in and I say, I want that handgun, and that handgun. And those are the 3 handguns I want to give my 3 children as a gift. The law in the state of California said, no, that's illegal. You can buy one now, you can buy another one in a month, and you can buy another one in a month after that. And a gentleman out there said, I don't think that's constitutional. I don't think you can ration my purchase of firearms. And that's a beautiful thing. And what did the Ninth Circuit just say? Now, this is a 3-judge panel at the Court of Appeals. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Ninth Circuit here. But the 3-judge panel unanimously out there, and the Ninth Circuit is known for being an incredibly liberal court, came out unanimously and said, first of all, under the text, history, and tradition test of the Bruen case, it's New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen. It says the test for determining whether a gun control law is constitutional or not is text, history, and tradition. First of all, what does the text of the constitutional protection say? What does it mean? What does it cover? And secondly, is the law at issue consistent with the history and tradition of the regulation of firearms on that issue? And they looked at this prohibition of buying more than one gun per month. I said, well, hold on. The Second Amendment talked about the right to keep and bear arms, plural. Plural. Doesn't say an arm. Doesn't say a gun. Arms, plural. Clearly covers possessing, owning, purchasing, transferring, carrying, if you so choose, more than one firearm if that's your choice. So the text clearly covers the issue before it. That being so, is some kind of rationing bill saying you can't buy more than one a month, consistent with the history and tradition of regulating guns in the United States going back to the time of the founding, 1791, when the Second Amendment was ratified. There's some authority for saying you also look at the time that the 14th Amendment was ratified, which made the Second Amendment applicable to the states, meaning states like California can't violate the Second Amendment either in 1856. So you can look at both time frames and say, is there a historical analog here that makes this okay? And they said, listen, it's true that you need a historical analog. It doesn't have to be a historical twin. That is the exact same regulation, but it's the same concept, is the same rationale behind the law, consistent with other regulations that have been upheld through the history and tradition of firearms regulation in this country. And there's a great quote that said, not only could we not find a historical analog in the form of a historical twin, we couldn't even find a distant cousin, which is kind of catchy phrasing, and I'm a big fan of it. And so they threw it out, unconstitutional. Now, before we celebrate too much, and I had people point this out on social media as well, when I said, hey, big win in California, this firearm rationing BS found unconstitutional by the Ninth Circuit. Again, the Ninth Circuit has a whole bunch of Trump appointees on it now. either during his first term or more recent. But it's still a court that has, as a majority, very, very liberal judges on it, and has for a long time. And what the government out there can do is ask for a rehearing, what's called a rehearing en banc. That means typically the full court. Now, there are too many judges in the Ninth Circuit to bring them all in. I forget the number. I want to say it's 30-something or high 20s. Haven't looked at that in a number of years. And so they have a system now where they don't bring them all in, but they bring in some much larger group of them to, quote-unquote, en banc, consider the three-judge opinion on rehearing. And the Ninth Circuit has example after example after example of three-judge panels coming out and finding a gun control law unconstitutional, like a so-called high-capacity magazine ban was a recent example, and then having the full en banc Ninth Circuit panel come back and say, no, in fact, constitutional. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, it's a big win. And this is a citizen activist who said that law is not okay. I want to challenge that law. Then got backing. The Second Amendment Foundation was right in the middle of this and provided a lot of resources, funding, and lawyering. And boom, for now anyway, got it overturned. Big win. And something we, even out here in Indiana, where we don't have to deal with such nonsense, because our General Assembly has actually been very, very good on Second Amendment issues for some number of years. Sometimes they're a little slow. Shouldn't have taken us 10 years to get constitutional carry passed. But we got them to do the right thing eventually, and pretty much every session of the Indiana General Assembly, we do something positive for Second Amendment rights right here in Indiana. So I've blown past the 3/4 hour. We're going to take a break, come back for a very short segment, and wrap up this edition of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Big, beautiful bill. It's big, and it's a bill. We're going to grow this economy. We're going to spend some money. But you got to spend money to make money.
Does anybody trust the government, Republicans or Democrats, to get it right and do that? But if this were Democrats pushing through another $5 trillion, we'd say, what the hell are you doing? If you don't stop the spending, we're going to run out of money.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law offices of Guy Relford. You know, one thing we really enjoy doing, and we do a lot of, is restoring people's Second Amendment rights. If they have a felony conviction on their record, if you have 8 years with a clean criminal history, a lot of felony convictions, not all certainly, but a lot of them can be expunged from your record, and we can restore your rights. If it's been at least 5 years and you have a misdemeanor, we can expunge that from your record as well. If you have a conviction for a crime of domestic violence and it's been at least 5 years, we can file a petition for restoration and ask a court to restore your rights. It's something we do a lot of and want to continue doing them. If that is something that interests you, a friend, a family member, contact us through the website. It's relfordlaw.com. We can have a free consultation to decide whether this is something that you're prepared to go forward with to try to get your rights restored. We'd like to do that. Just give us an email or a call. And again, contact us through the website. It's relfordlaw.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a DSNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A DSNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana DSNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a $1,000 small business bonus when you switch to a qualifying gig speed package from the company with over 99.99% network reliability. Just imagine the thousands of possibilities of a $1,000 prepaid card. Like possibility number 1, company merch for staff. Styling. Or possibility number 24, the latest software. Upgrade. Or possibility number 192, new equipment powered by gig speeds. Or possibility number 555, a 3D printer. Rapid prototyping, anyone? Switch to Comcast Business for over 99.99% network reliability, advanced cybersecurity, and now get started with a $1,000 small business bonus. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
In 6/22/25, new customers only with 2-year agreement. Other restrictions apply.
Grit, hard work, training, professionalism, and being ready at a moment's notice. That's what we stand for at Fire Dogs Junk Removal, because we were founded by firefighters. When it's time to clear out clutter, big or small, we've got you covered. From old furniture to hot tubs and even entire decks, our team handles it all. Call Fire Dogs Junk Removal today at 1-800-211-DOG or book online at firedogs.com. Fire Dogs Junk Removal, your local team ready to answer the call.
Big stories locally, big moves in Washington. WIBC.com keeps you updated throughout the day with all the news that matters, plus traffic, weather, and more on your phone, your laptop, wherever you are. It's news when you need it. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for what is going to be a very short segment. But I really had a good question. Just came in on my Twitter or X feed. By the way, give me a follow while you're on X. It's just at Guy Relford. But somebody said, I have a conviction for battery, not domestic battery, but was just denied a gun purchase. How can that be? And this is an important point, and I've only got about a minute here, but I think I can address it. Indiana has a statute, and there's a federal statute that says if you have a conviction for a crime of domestic violence, you cannot possess a firearm. And I've talked about this a little bit here on the show before. That may be the specific crime of domestic battery. It may be something else like just battery if it was committed against a family or household member, because that's the definition of crime of domestic violence. It's any crime that involves either the use of force or the threatened use of a deadly weapon, and by definition, any battery involves the use of force, it's committed against a family or household member. If so, it doesn't matter whether the charge of domestic battery was dropped and you only pled guilty to battery. If that battery was committed against a family or household member, which is broadly defined, that's a crime of domestic violence, and you cannot own a gun. The good news is, after 5 years, your right can be restored. That's what I'm talking about. That's it for this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel here for our guy, Mark Deedle.